governance. So governance is no longer that, repository for policies and standards and control frameworks that sits on a shelf.
Remember, everything is code now. So especially in AI.
One of the best ways to demonstrate the trustworthiness of having the CISO at the table is for he or she to be knowledgeable, right? Welcome to the Cranium AI webinar series, where we take 25 to 30 minutes to explore the different aspects of artificial intelligence. If you are intellectually curious and you love to learn from people who like getting their hands dirty, then this is the webinar for you. I'm your host, Byron Hawkins, the CISO of Cranium AI, and today's show is the first of a three-part series where my guest and I will explore the changing role of the CISO in the AI age. Our guest really doesn't need an introduction, but today we have Roland Cloutier. Roland has been the CISO of multiple Fortune 500 companies. He's the principal of the Business Protection Group, an inductee in the CISO's Hall of Fame, which I didn't even know there was a CISO Hall of Fame. He's a sought-after keynote speaker and my mentor and friend. Roland, welcome to the show.
Byron, thanks for having me, man.
So as you and I prepared for this, we talked a lot about how things are changing for CISOs. And so we're going to take these next three episodes to talk through some of the different aspects. But I thought today would be a good one to start with, AI governance and the AI systems themselves and how we govern them. And for context for the viewers, we want to talk very broadly about generative AI models. So we're not necessarily talking about security controls for web browsers and users going out to use ChatGPT or Claude. But I wanted to really pick your brain and kind of kick us off. And in your business, you talk with the C-suite and board members, many times a day. So I was wondering, with your vast experience, describe how the AI governance conversation is different from past technologies.
Well, Byron, maybe I start off with not different. I think there are a lot of things that have changed over the years, especially over the last 2 years, as generative AI has introduced itself to the business and made itself an incredible force to drive our organizations forward. But some of the stuffs are really kind of basic, which is the business has some business requirements, and they're going to come to us with not necessarily a problem that needs to be solved, but a business initiative that needs to be accomplished and a strategy that needs to be driven. And they're coming to us to ensure that they can do that. And that second part of that, of course, is we're accountable for ensuring it's secure and that the organization remains compliant and able to operate in the jurisdictions that they operate in. So I don't think any of that has changed in general, but some of the differences is that I think we've been fortunate that we've been brought in a lot earlier. I mean, I remember the days, Byron, when yours at the bank, where something be in place and say, hey, we need to talk to you about something we're going to do, but it's already done. That has changed. So that's given us a bit of an edge as we're part of the solution rather than the remediation. And in the topic of the question itself, from a governance point of view, we're not just the enforcement entity. We're now supporting from governance to compliance, meaning governance to business design, to technical design, to implementation, to cyber assurance, to controls enforcement. And when you're part of the full paradigm, if you will, you have an opportunity to not just have a voice, but you have an opportunity to help them understand the impact of the decisions they're making from a governance point of view, and the ability for the company to actually, quote unquote, enforce governance across the organization. So I think that's one. And the other one is probably we're developing solutions way ahead of the curve from a governance perspective. So in a lot of the technologies to help us enable and drive AI specifically, there are governance aspects of that built into the technology itself, rather than slapping on another GRC technologies or another CCMA product or another whatever to help that AI along, built into solutions to manage, design, promote, deliver, enforce, protect, all of those things in those singular solutions. There's a lot of aspects of governance in there, which helps us. If you think about, AI scorecards or, third party or digital ecosystem enablement discovery of AI use from a governance perspective, those are actually being built into tools, which is exciting to me.
Yeah, that's that's interesting. And I think you're hitting on a little bit of what I'm seeing too as being something that I think is very different. And what I mean by that is the things you talked about, the built-in aspects or capabilities for governance, for security, for compliance, for those things to be able to plug into broader infrastructure components, right? Seems to be very different than exactly what you said. Like, I go way back to when e-commerce exploded on the scene and everybody was rushing to put websites out that could take credit card payments, but they didn't have firewalls. That is something that's very different. I think we're in this age of what, we're talking a lot about operationalizing governance. So governance is no longer that, you know, repository for policies and standards and control frameworks that sits on a shelf and nobody looks at it until something goes bump in the night. Like, governance has become very active in this age. And so I was just curious from that perspective, where you see some of your clients, some of your partners, where are they looking to drive or kind of double click and go deeper in that aspect where they inspect continuously what's being deployed in the production environment?
A lot of people are really super concerned about the pipeline and the infrastructure it sits on. I think, previous to the generative AI phase, of our careers, as I like to say, there's, you look at things that were really important for us to do around segmentation, segregation, and a lot of people were able to get to microseg, and they knew they were starting to understand the business technology operations that go together where they could do that type of work. And then they got to AI and it crossed all bounds again. And so I think one of the areas that's people are really looking forward to using the technology is defining what their AI is. I go back and I was actually listening to something the CEO of your company was talking about, Jonathan Dambrot, not too long ago. He was talking about a large MNC that he was doing some work with, and they had plugged in some technology, and they thought they had X number of AI pipelines, or they were using it in X number of spaces, and it turned out being YYYYYZ. The number was astronomically larger than they had anticipated or expected, and so again, just defining where and what we use it and how we find it in code. Remember, everything is code now, so especially in AI. So how we operate to ensure the usability integrity of AI within our environments. We have to understand how it lives in code and where it's used. And then that helps us define the pipelines and the infrastructure it's on. And all those things are important. So I think I see that a lot. Early adopters using it, helping them to identify so they can define what and where it is, so then they can see it and defend it.
No, that's really good. And you're right about the fact that it's in the code. As I've experimented and played around with various different, APIs and just small little projects for myself, it's so ridiculously easy to just,
you got
make an
toaster,
API call, right?
You got your toaster working on AI. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Well, I think we should be, yeah, for sure. But when you think about too, I guess I was looking at this the other day, and I grew up in the world of you assess it once a year, right, for critical and high systems, and for medium and low, maybe you go biennial. But this seems like the environment, these systems, because of the non-deterministic nature, right, and the quote unquote self-authoring capabilities, like, it seems like that maybe once a year is not enough for an annual assessment. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, like, what are ways we should be thinking about adjusting our cycles, testing cycles, assessment cycles, to get to closer to a continuous or
Yeah,
real-time assessment.
this is funny. This is our language, which sucks. I mean, it really does. I mean, we talk about assessments and how many times a year. We got it all wrong. We just do.
Mhm.
If our peers would embrace a CCM or a CCMA, controls assurance or continuous controls management perspective into their AI environment, I think our life would be much better. This isn't about, am I compliant? This is about, am I resilient to failures and assurance of the security standards by which we committed to our business, our shareholders, and our customers, right? I mean, that's what it is. So if you would operationalize the focus of your governance oversight, which are the controls and the processes that we've committed to ensure the robustness and protection and defense of the AI we're using, then you should be able to do that every day. Your dashboard should include your controls and your AI and your data defense and access assurance manageability of the data sources that your AI uses, and the testing and red teaming and the things that should be happening. No different than saying, hey, the controls for my, quote unquote, crown jewels, or my critical assets in place, operating and defendable when I got up this morning. Right. We should be doing that with AI from we should not be thinking about this in the context of, monthly, quarterly, biannually. It should be every day. And when things go bump in the night or they become out of whack with the baselines that, we've agreed to, then we should know about it that day. So I'm not a big believer in the compliance aspect of it. I'm a big believer in the operational use for integrity and resilience.
Yeah, I hear other non-CISOs saying that actually recently a global procurement executive was voicing that we got it wrong with cloud, right? Thinking that we could assess cloud environments once a year and not, expect there to be tremendous drift from the last time we may have taken a look at it. And so, yeah, I think AI is definitely, we should take some lessons from cloud and experience and not repeat those same sins, if you will. So if we think about the CISO things that folks can take, I know you said we're in early, so that's a plus. I, would argue that maybe the 1% of Fortune 500 companies, or the 1% that the Fortune 500 represents of businesses out there, may not have the same resources, right, as the rest of the other 99% may not have the same resources. So what's some advice that we could, that you could give to CISOs that may not have, 2,500 security professionals at their disposal and who are being invited, to take a leadership role in this new age? Like, what are some things that they could do over the next, let's just call it 20 to 30 days to get this conversation going, to insert themselves? What would you suggest?
I mean, I think there's a lot. First of all, relationships matter in what we do. And so although we can go do a lot of technology and security and all the really cool stuff we get to do as cyber executives and security risk and privacy experts, go get to know the business if you don't. I mean, go understand who is driving AI and why and how it's going to impact the business so you can speak to it, you can articulate it, you can understand it from their perspective. I think that is certainly the number one thing that I talk to people about. Like if you have an opportunity to get on a AI governance council or get AI oversight council, do it. It doesn't take, money and resources and budget planning to say, I'll sit in that meeting. I'll be part of that discussion. So that's number one. Number two, and again, I know it sounds trite, but it's not. We have so many different things to do. And I don't care if you have a 20-person shop or you have a 2,000-person shop. We're busy with the executives, with our boards. We're busy with customers. We're busy with our teams. We're busy with, developing organizations. We're developing, regulatory, and on and on and on. And each one of those areas has subcategories, right? We probably deliver on the order of 26 different core services and another 100 below that, back into the business. Like, we have time to go out and take learning courses. But here's a hint: do it, right? Take some time. I mean, podcasts are great. Don't get me wrong. I'm on a podcast right now. It's kind of cool. But like, can you take a short course in generative AI or in AI in general, and not in coding, but how it works for business in a post MBA certificate class? Or maybe you belong to ISAC or the World 50 or one of those, and they're doing, a program for executives on it. Go to it. Learn about how it works. So when you're sitting in the meetings I just mentioned, I think it's important that you are one of the experts in the room in your space. Apply your existing knowledge to what you've learned recently. Take a certificate course if you can, to show that you're taking this seriously and that you're certified, and participate. And then I think there are some real big areas in our own areas of accountability or responsibility that are super important. That it doesn't matter if you're using AI or not. We should be doing this anyways. But if you are not doing data defense and access assurance, data security programs, data defense, access assurance, whatever you want to call it, but DDAA type programs where you understand where your data is, where it came from, what we are allowed to do with it, how we're securing it, where it's being moved to, and how we monitor it. Like really basic things. I say that it's basic. I've done it in really large organizations, and it's taken multiple years, and it's very painful. But if you're going to enable the business to use the data assets and resources within their care and custody and do some really cool stuff with AI, you're going to need to do data defense and access assurance well. And I would say IDM kind of falls into that as well. We often worry about IDM as consolidating it, ensuring we have robust multi-factor to make sure that we understand the process and oversight in specific type accounts. But I'm not just talking about human identity. I'm talking about human, machine, application, API, all the identities we use within our environment that allow access to systems, infrastructure, data, and the process that makes our business and our business technologies robust and resilient. So if you focus on those, and the other big one is code repos. It's been a struggle in many organizations for CISO programs to have an effective enforcement and capability program in there. Some people do it so well, so many do not. And it's ask the simple questions. How many repos do you have in your organization? Are they internal? Are they external? What do they use for auth? Are they logging? What are people allowed to do with the code? What's in the code, right? And that's just securing the code repos before you get to what's in there, and what's the security posture and the security quality of the code that's in there, and helping them from an application and product security perspective. So two very different sides there. We're the professionals at that, and we should be able to help the organization ensure that the code repos are extremely secure. We've seen attacks on code repos. Obviously, it's an ongoing issue from a nation state perspective, and we've seen very successful attacks that we never want to see again. And how that harms the entirety of the organization and the professional career of the CISO as well. So let's focus on code repos. And if you're a small company, to your point, and you can get your data fixed, understand the identities in your environment, and make sure your code repos are secure, you've gone a long way to helping your business thrive.
No, that's excellent, Roland. I mean, so many things to unpack there. I really love the fact that you hit on educating yourself. I think we kind of opened with the intellectually curious tag. I've told a number of friends and peers of ours that one of the best ways to demonstrate the trustworthiness of having the CISO at the table is for he or she to be knowledgeable, right? Again, not just about the technology. So yes, I love all of the trainings and YouTube videos that are available on Hugging Face. They are absolutely fascinating and worth the time and effort. But also understanding how your business plans to use the AI system that they might be considering, whether it's in the call center, helps you. I mean, the things that are tried and true for us, once you understand how the business plans to use that AI system, you can start to envision the the threat model, right, that exists for that particular system. And then you touched on something that we love here at Cranium is, shifting as far left as you possibly can. So now you understand how the business plans to use it, you understand the requirements, you can build threat models, you start looking at the repositories and make sure the repos are secured, you dig into those and you start to examine the code, you build out the AI system with AI bombs. And once you have that level of visibility, you can now start to apply the things that we have spent so many years, literally perfecting and codifying through various different risk frameworks. I think that is 100% a great way to take what you've heard today, folks, and start to build out those plans as you think about your next steps. Roland, I know our goal for this was to not, just bloviate to expand and fill time if we didn't need it. We, through rapid succession, have gone through kind of the prepared questions that I had for today. Are there any other thoughts or comments that you would want to leave with the audience before we close it out?
I there's so much to do and so much to unpack here, that I'm glad you're doing this whole podcast series, Byron. I think it's super important. I think you know the us taking uh, AI security, whatever that means, and helping drive that into enabled quality business resiliency, I think is so important. I mean, remember, we have three different jobs as security risk and privacy executives. The first one is to enable the business to use new technology to drive the market and their capabilities and defend their position in the market and win. And the only way that it's going to happen is through the adoption and acceleration of the use of different types of AI. I think the second one that we also have to keep our pulse on and understand as we really start to unpack these issues and these theories around AI utilization and defense is the bad guys are going to use AI. I mean, we're already seeing it. We started 3 years ago, and we see the simplicity of how bad AI can do super bad things and make our lives really difficult. And it's going to continue to do that. And even when it's not bad, just machine generated code at a level we've never seen before is going to change our world and how we deliver our services. And then I think the third area is that area that we're just testing ourselves out as technological leaders and executives. Is how are we going to use it to make the business we run better, faster, easier, cheaper, and be able to keep up on the other side. So we have a 3-point opportunity, and for the people that embrace it, they're going to really do well in their careers.
I love it. I love it. And you've perfectly teed up the next two episodes here. So I won't add on to what you just said. I thank you, my friend, for first just planting the seed, um, and the idea for doing this definitely is stretching me outside my comfort zone. I don't think I've done anything like this before. I'm more of the introverted type. I'd rather, sit with a keyboard and try to, bang out a novel than get in front of folks on the screen. But this has been a pleasure, and I hope everybody gets out of this the learning, the spark of interest, and some direction that I get from you every time we speak. So thank you again, and look forward to doing this again here soon.
Thanks, Byron. And I look forward to torturing you a little bit more, knowing how uncomfortable doing a podcast must be for you. So this is going to be fun.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.